Hey, it's Andrew with Melrose Mold Solutions, and you're about to have a seat at the table with Steve Gern and I as we talk about and expose the insurance industry and all of the tactics and ways that they mess with restoration projects being done properly, the importance of these IICRC standardized guidelines that we both have certifications in. And we just talked business, but we talked about justice and fairness and balance in this industry for you as the homeowner and all the things that happen behind the scenes. So we are just two professionals talking. You get to sit at the table with us, and I'm very, very excited to hear about your feedback and all the massive things you're going to learn about the insurance industry overall, and important things to know that will save you a lot of stress, money, confusion. And Steve is an amazing man. He is a veteran who was overseas for us and has a crazy story, so you can look into him. I really look forward to hearing your feedback on this awesome conversation. Steve Gern, good to see you, man.
You too.
I want to talk with you. I want to expose the insurance industry and a lot of the injustices in that world. I'm in the mold industry, you are as well, and I see a lot of injustices with mold, with how it's handled at a lot of different levels, and the gaslighting that goes on, the just all the politics around it, all the confusion. And there is a lot of confusion around it, but there's a lot with the insurance that you know a lot more than I do and have had a lot of experience. So yeah, tell me about yourself, your story.
So, I started this company back in 2014 and I was still working overseas, but when I came back in 2017, I really got into the mitigation side of it. I adjusted for a short period of time just to kind of get an eyes on, see what the industry was all about. And then moving on in throughout the industry, being part of the water mitigation side of it, water, fire, mold, it's really opened my eyes to how the insurance carriers act toward homeowners versus contractors and so on and so forth, and what they actually get away with and what homeowners don't know.
Yeah.
And how an adjuster can continue to pull the wool over their eyes over and over and over and over and make buttloads of money, because we need to understand something. The insurance company is not there. They're not their friend. They're not your friend. They're there. They're a for-profit company, and they do not want to put out a lot of money. They are trying to mitigate their risk just like everybody else. So they use different tactics in order to put the homeowner off, drag the homeowner through a lot of grief until the homeowner just gives up on a claim. But there's a lot of different tactics that the insurance companies employ in order to get you either to walk away from your claim, not understand your claim, such as writing estimates that are so crazy that you can't even follow the estimate. Like, you have ceiling line items and then floor line items and then wall line items, and then, so it doesn't flow for a homeowner to actually look at an estimate and go, okay, this is what the insurance company's paying for, and this is what they're not paying for. And they put so many line items in there that homeowners don't know about, that they just get lost. It's very, very difficult to understand the policy and how it's written and all that, just everything when it comes to that. And they bet on the insurance company or the insured not to know how to fight them, what to say, and ultimately that makes it a multi-billion-dollar industry that is unregulated. And we're all seeing the effects of it now with North Carolina, with California, with normal day claims, hurricane claims, wind claims. And people are just, Florida, they still got blue tarps on the roofs.
Yeah.
So,
So they work off of a lot of ignorance, right? I mean, there's a lot of ignorance, and that's why all this can happen. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk with you, is because if we can get some awareness and expose this stuff, then maybe those tactics won't work because of the ignorance being solved. So you see a lot of different jobs, a lot of different ways. One night you're handling a flood that dealt with 3 floors impact. The next day you're doing a small little cleanup somewhere else. I mean, it's a pretty chaotic world. Give me kind of a step-by-step of what what a job goes through from start to finish,
So
from the homeowner's perspective, and then your involvement in it.
So from the homeowner's perspective, well, let's just say, you have a water heater in your attic, because here in Texas, we put water heaters in the attic. So water heater in the attic, all of a sudden is 1 o'clock in the morning, you have a water heater that bursts on you, or you have a pipe burst or something like that. Now, you have water running down first floor, second floor, out of the ceiling, and so on. You immediately, the first thing you need to do is turn off your water. If you know how to turn your water off, you need to turn that water off and try to prevent as much, to slow that damage down as much as possible. From that point, a lot of people either call their insurance carrier, or they call a plumber, or they call a restoration company. I would say that the first thing you need to do is call a plumber. Stop the bleed.
Yeah.
Stop that water from coming in your house. So that's number one, is call a plumber. 2, call the restoration company. Do some research on a restoration company, whether you go to Google or it's a referral, whatever it is. Get a restoration company out there that's reputable, that's going to do what they're supposed to do. 3rd, yes, call your insurance company. Now, when you call your insurance company, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to push a vendor down your throat. They're going to say, don't go with anybody, or even sometimes they'll say, don't do anything and don't let anybody do anything to the property until we send an adjuster out there. This is something.
Now time's going on.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
So this is something that they'll do, a tactic that they do, and you cannot do that as a homeowner. In your clause, in your insurance policy, there's a clause in there that says the homeowner must start emergency services immediately to prevent any further damage. Now, this is a loophole for the insurance company, because if you don't do that and you wait, the insurance company can turn around and go, well, you didn't respond to this quick enough, and now all this additional damage is because you didn't respond quick
Negligence,
enough.
yep.
They're just trying to find that loophole and throw it onto you. The other thing is, they're always going to push that preferred vendor. It's just their thing. Preferred vendor is going to go off of guideline versus somebody going off of a standard through the IICRC and the S500.
Yep. So is that preferred vendor 9 times out of 10 incentivized in a different way? Okay.
100%.
So there's incentives going on there. There's ignorance from the homeowner of the steps in the process. I mean, really, there needs to be a timeline. I made a mold timeline, kind of how to understand to walk through the mold situation, when you need the inspector, the protocol written, all those different things, just to simplify the visual. Probably could make one, for this exact process for you, because there is a difference. If we can get on top of this before mold ever happens, now we're just in the IICRC S500 protocols, which we'll talk about, and that's extremely important before it gets 10 times worse. But in this time, like you're talking about, if they're delaying things, it's only getting worse, right? So the plumber obviously comes in if it's a plumbing issue. If it's a kind of an intrusion from the foundation or something like flooding, then you go right to a restoration company. Obviously,
yes, you want to go right to a restoration company. Now, different types of losses require different types of
professionals,
ways to respond to it.
Yeah.
And the insurance companies look at that as well, because they look at, is this groundwater that's come up, and is it covered versus a sudden event,
right,
water heater, pipe burst, or accidental. A lot of people don't realize if you overflow your toilet or you overflow your bathtub, that is a covered peril. That is a covered peril. A lot of people don't realize that. Insurance is there for accidental and sudden events.
Right.
So
those are key words there.
You tell your daughter, hey, I want you to go up, you're going to go take a bath. And she turns the bathtub on and then goes and sits in her room and falls asleep. And next thing you know, you have water coming downstairs.
Yep.
It happens, it's accidental, and it is covered. A lot of people don't realize that, and they think, oh my God, I need to make up a story about something that happened. There's no reason to make up a story. It's a covered peril. So
awesome.
Get somebody out there and start that drying process immediately to prevent the mold.
Yeah.
Because after 24 or 48 hours of standing water,
a lot of things.
That mold spore is already going to start creating itself.
Right, yeah. Bacteria is first to form, all that stuff. So, that's what I want to talk about is like laying the terms that we're going to be talking, because you're going to be pulling all kinds of great terms, and we're going to get really granular on a lot of things. But what are some terms that we can cover now so the definitions are in place for the rest of the conversation? So we mentioned the IICRC. What is the IICRC? I have 2 certifications with them. You do as well. So talk to me about
the IICRC is it's basically the Institute of Restoration and Cleaning Certification.
Yep.
Basically what it is many years ago, the IICRC had to get started up because the insurance industries and I guess you would say the mitigation industry started banging heads because there was no standard.
Right.
So there was no type of standard of care. There was no type of standard when it came to billing and so on and so forth. So you may be billing a certain amount for a fan. I may be billing a different amount for a fan. And the IICRC basically came out and said, okay, when it comes to a standard of how many fans, how many dehumidifiers, when you're going to use an air scrubber, when you're not going to use an air scrubber, all these things ended up getting outlined in the IICRC. The reason why that was done is because the insurance companies kept saying, oh, contractors are gouging us. Well, they said, we need a standard across the board. So we created that standard. And now this standard is created, guys like myself, who learned the standard extremely well,
Right.
We are now a threat to the insurance company because they said, this is what we need to do. This is the standard we need to create. And once they created that standard, we learned how to use that standard. We learned what was the requirements were. And now the insurance companies go, whoa, 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 whoa. Let's back off the standard and go off a guideline where we think that it should be. So the IICRC is extremely important for restoration companies. You have to go off the IICRC. If you don't go off the IICRC,
very well, yeah,
then you are putting yourself in a position where you will not be able to win a argument with the insurance company if you have an inflated estimate or something like that. You can't win. You have to be perfect every single time. So that's where the IICRC really comes into play.
Yeah.
It's your standard operating procedure, your book, the S500, that says, this is what I'm going to do. Now, there's 2 words in that book that mean a lot. One is should, one is shall. And if it says shall, you will do it by law. If you don't, you will be held accountable for that in the court of law if that ever happens. And if you don't hold to that standard, then it's on you. The insurance companies can absorb a lawsuit. Small businesses can't.
Right.
So you have to do it as per that standard.
It's the governing body, man. It's so important to have that. And even for your pricing and for your, I mean, when I went through the S500, it was like mind blowing. There's a science of drying. There's a certain amount of, dehues and fans and all that. There's a science of drying and what needs to be removed and all those different things that you guys need to know fluently. And if the S500 water restoration standards are done properly and effectively and on time, then we don't need to scoot over necessarily to the IICRC S520 mold remediation protocols. So I have both of those, as do you, and there are changes. That's why if we can get ahead of things and get the S500 done, and this is for homeowners because some homeowners, right, when they talk to me, they're thinking just mold and contaminants right off the bat, that if the leak happens, they think they're in immediate danger. And as time goes on, yes. And so the standards will change and scoot over. And so that time is very, very important, that first 24 to 72 hours. So this helps you with pricing. It helps you with, that governing body standard to go with insurance. And those are kind of the 2, and I have more videos on those 2 standards and the details of each one.
And one thing about the S500 and the IICRC is it goes into categories of loss.
Yeah.
And categories of loss are very important because the category 1 loss is going to be a loss, say the water came from your sink and went on the floor. That's category 1. Category 2 is going to be where water mixed with some sort of a chemical, and now that's category 2. Category 3 is going to be your worst category. That's going to be
sewage,
any hurricane wind rains, groundwater, water that's been sat for a period of time, which has now created, microbial growth. Those things, you have to be able to identify the categories.
Yep.
And that changes what you're going to do and your procedures on each category,
right,
and how you're going to remove the contaminants, if there's contaminants, how you're going to bag them, where they're going to go, and what equipment you're going to use. Am I going to use an air scrubber now? I'm always going to use an air scrubber on a job no matter what, because I don't know what's behind that wall.
Right.
Homeowner says, hey, this just happened. It may not have happened just now. It may have just erupted at that point.
Right.
But you may have had a small leak for weeks in that wall, and now, if I'm not putting an air scrubber in there and I open up that wall and there's microbial growth, now I'm contaminating your house. So chambering it off, opening up the wall, having the air scrubber in there, identifying my issue, putting the category to it. Is it a category 1, 2, or 3? And then dealing with it with whatever the category is with the protocol that category is going to require.
I would not be having this discussion with somebody if they didn't know it through and through like you do. I mean, it's so important. Real quick, why is it so important for restoration and remediation companies to not just get the course and have the certification as their kind of for their company's kind of liability, but to actually know it? Why is it helping you on a day-to-day basis, and the importance of really knowing it?
Well, I think it really helps because here's my thought. The value of a restoration company shouldn't lie in the equipment that they use. It should lie in the knowledge that the restoration company and the restorers have.
Right.
That's really where it comes into play. Is everybody uses fans, everybody uses dehumidifiers, everybody uses air scrubbers. That's all fine, well, and good. You can buy those anywhere. The problem is, do you know how to use those?
Yeah.
Do you know how to use them properly?
Yeah.
So that's really kind of like when it comes to a restoration company understanding that process, that's no longer a factor, because your factor now comes to, hey, I know this is a category 3. I know exactly how I need to address a category 3 in order to make sure that there's no contaminants in this property. Because, for instance, FEMA on hurricanes down in Florida, they do not allow sanitizing. FEMA allows for demo. They allow for air scrubbers, actually no air scrubbers. They allow for demo, fans, dehumidifiers, no sanitation.
Wow.
So you're not spraying any Decon 30. You're not spraying any microbial growth or any antimicrobial. You're not doing that. You're not getting paid for that. Now, you want to do it, and you should do it because it's a requirement, and that's what the homeowner needs. Now, when those things don't take place and the reconstruction happens back on that property, and it was a category 3 loss, and it wasn't sanitized, it wasn't done properly, no Decon 30, none of that was done. And you put your carpets back down, and one day your child's crawling around the floor, and next thing you know, they got ringworm. Or they have nasal infections, or sinus infections, and ear infections, and pink eye, and all this. And you're running around going, man, why is this going on? What's going on? Why does my kid have these issues? Well, the issue is because your floor is dirty. It was never clean to begin with, because they wanted you to go off of a guideline versus a standard. So that's why it's important for restoration companies to not only know the standard, but to apply those standards. And no matter what, when that insurance company says, hey, we don't need that, they don't need that, you say, no, this is a requirement.
Big red flag.
This is what needs to be done.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Some other terms with like insurance terms. So one is ALE. What does that mean? And just any other terms that you could think of that would equip or empower a homeowner to know about their policy. They don't need to be an insurance expert necessarily, but what are some terms they need to know? And then we'll get back to, I guess, that timeline of moving forward this claim.
So ALE is a big one. Additional living allowance or additional living expenses, basically what that refers to is when you can no longer live in that property due to the damage of the property. Normally that's going to require the bathroom no longer usable and the kitchen no longer usable. If you cannot shower and you cannot cook in your property, you are going to be afforded ALE. Now the insurance company is never going to tell you that. And when they do tell you that, they're going to tell you, we're going to put you up in a hotel. That's not the way it works. If you are in a 3,000 square foot home with 3 kids, 2 dogs, you need to be put into a property that is equivalent to the property that you are no longer in during the time that the restoration process is taking. So the insurance company will always tell you, oh, no, all you got to do is put you in a hotel. You're not putting 3 kids and 2 dogs in a hotel. It's not going to happen.
Right.
They're going to tell you, oh, you have $150 a day of ALE. No, it's not. You have a gross amount, say, $120,000 for the year. They'll say over the course of 12 months, you have $120,000 to use if your claim was to take that long. So, but they'll always try to save that money and say, you don't need ALE, you don't need this, you don't need that. That is something that it's a right, it's afforded to the homeowner if the conditions require it.
Wow.
And
what percentage of homeowners policies have ALE?
everyone,
Every single one.
everyone.
Interesting.
Yeah. Every policy now, their limits may be different on their ALE, but every policy is going to have ALE. If you don't have ALE on your policy, you really need to be looking at your policy. That's another thing that homeowners don't do. You don't just look at that declaration page. That's the first page that you see and you go, oh, I have this covered, this covered, this covered, this covered. Yes, your dwelling may be covered for $500,000. But then on page 40, you have 3 exemptions that are no longer covered. So you have to be looking at your entire policy, not just the declaration page, to tell you what your coverages are versus, everything else. For instance, Florida, last year, hurricane. We went down to the hurricane and we were doing a lot of work. Almost every one of the policies that we ran into, wind-driven rain was excluded from their hurricane policy.
On purpose.
On purpose. Now, if you have a hail and wind policy and wind-driven rain is excluded from the policy, do you have a policy?
No.
You don't. Because the main factor of a hurricane, which is wind and rain, is excluded from your policy, which they also go into what a storm-created opening is. And when they changed the definition of a storm-created opening, it created a lot of problems for people because now storm-created opening was now considered the decking came off of the roof and free-flowing water was able to go into the property. That is what they considered a storm-created opening. So if your door blew open, your window blew open, the soffit came off and the wind blew the rain in that way, that's not covered.
Wow.
So read the policy. Because we're going to read the policy when we get there. And when we do, we have to be the ones the bearer of the bad news when we say, hey, this is not a covered peril. And you can see the life drain out of a person when they realize that they have a $600,000 home that has just been flooded out and they don't have coverage for it. And they're looking at $100,000, $200,000 to put that back together, and their insurance company's not covering anything.
Wow.
Or they're only covering a small portion of it. And you're coming out of pocket. And it's not very easy nowadays to do that.
No, that's the stuff we're going to get into is how you go to bat for homeowners. That's, again, why you're sitting at this table. The conversations we've had have caused me to say those conversations have to go public. And so whoever's a fly on the wall listening to this conversation are very, very lucky. And if you're spending this much money as a homeowner, you ought to know what you're spending the money for, right? So,
I mean, you have a lot of homeowners that, I guess you can explain it like this. From the time that you're 18 years old and you get booted out of your house to the time that you're 75 or 80 years old, and they say that that's the lifespan, that's your average lifespan. You'll have paid $1 million into your insurance companies between your car, your home, your medical. And now you have a $20,000 loss. We'll say a $50,000, $100,000 loss.
that's still
And you
fractional.
will fight tooth and nail to be covered. And that's wrong. If you've paid that much into your insurance carrier, or into insurance in your lifetime, and you can't get a simple loss covered or you have to go through a crazy battle in order to get your water heater that exploded to cover your property. And then you look at some of the, we've had homeowners that are 70, 80 years old. They're on a fixed income. They can't offset,
Right.
a $10,000, $15,000 invoice because the insurance company didn't cover it. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, and you got a lot of stories we're going to get into as well on how to go to bat for them, and what you have to do. You literally have money held up, bro. Like you have money held up right now by insurance.
It is.
You're doing right by the homeowner, and that's the tough place you're in, is in the middle of that fight.
At any given time in my company, I have about $200,000 in the rear that we are waiting on for companies, insurance carriers to pay us. We've had large invoices that only got half paid, and the insurance company goes, well, this is going to be all we're going to pay, and they expect the homeowner to pay the rest. And we don't do that. We fight our fights, and we don't normally lose. But when it does happen, which it doesn't happen very often, it's really hard to get the homeowner to pay for what the insurance company didn't pay for. So we don't. We try not to press that. Depending on what kind of insurance company, what insurance company is, we know what we're dealing with. So when we walk into a claim, and I know it's a State Farm claim, I know what I'm dealing with. So I have to dot all my I's, and all cross all my T's. Otherwise, I already know they're going to fight me on everything. So I have to put them in a corner. I have to make sure that I am 100% right. And then, even then, they may turn around and go, well, we're going to only pay you the undisputed amount.
Wow.
And an undisputed amount is the amount that they determine, not you.
Wow. Okay, back to some more terms. TDI, what is that? And any other language that you feel homeowners
All right,
should
the TDI is, and this is something that homeowners do not know. TDI is the Texas Department of Insurance. Now,
do other states have this too, or?
Other states have it too. Everybody has a insurance commission, Department of Insurance, and basically what the TDI is if you have a claim that has been unethical, the adjuster's being unethical, they're dragging the claim, they're trying to deny the claim, they're just delaying the claim as much as they possibly can, and they're trying to find a loophole to not extend coverage. Or you receive an estimate that is a $26,000 estimate when the actual repairs are $100,000. And then nobody's responding to you. There is a point where you get to where you got to say, okay, I need assistance. And the TDI, the Texas Department of Insurance, is that assistance that you need to get.
Awesome.
You go to the website and you got to ask the adjuster for the license number. That's how we normally do it. Immediately after once it really starts getting a little bit crazy and we see that unethical behavior is happening, we immediately say, okay, we're going to need your license number because we're going to follow up with a TDI complaint. And when you do that, it basically causes the insurance commission to come in and investigate what's happening. And that usually really kind of puts everything back to the straight and narrow. But at this point, over the last 2 years, this is the extremes we have to go to. The TDI is a very important and useful tool that homeowners need to know about and do not know about. Nobody ever knows about it unless you've been through it.
Yeah.
And then you know about it.
For nationwide, how do you research that for your own state? Is it
any sort of
different
licensing
state and then Department of Insurance? Is
I would just do Department of Insurance in any state, because any sort of, just like a realtor or anything else, like for us, it's in Austin. If you are in a trade that requires a license, that license is maintained in Austin, and that is where your complaint department is. If you need to complain about a company that is a licensed trade, that's the person, not the person, that is where you go to make those complaints. Awesome. And it's not even as much as a complaint as it is a tool
accountability,
to move you forward and hold the carriers accountable.
Yeah.
And because not a lot of people know about that, they tend to get away with a lot. They say a lot of things they shouldn't say. They do a lot of things they're not supposed to do. And probably a lot of the adjusters don't know anything about TDI either, because what do? They get a crash course. They go do a 1-week adjuster course, and then they get put out there to do a field adjustment. Now, the insurance company loves that. They don't want an experienced adjuster. Why would I want an experienced adjuster that's going to write a proper estimate? I'd rather use that guy who knows absolutely nothing, and even though his adjustment is going to be completely off the wall, it's still going to be so light that there's nothing, one, you're not going to be able to understand it, and two, they can turn around and go, well, he's only been an adjuster for a week.
Right, wow.
Now he has no accountability.
Wow, so this is perfect then in the timeline. The leak happens, stop it with the plumber, whatever the cause of the loss is, get in touch with you, restoration company comes in. What happens from there? Now, what's your experience now?
For when it comes to us, as soon as we go on contract with a homeowner, we take over the claim. Mm-hmm. We completely take over it. I don't even want the insured, who's the homeowner, to be bothered with anything. I want them to be no part of it whatsoever. I'm going to go fight the insurance company.
That's what I like about you.
And again, when I talk about restoration companies, your value in a restoration company should not come from your equipment. Everybody has the same equipment. Your value comes from your knowledge and how you can deal with that insurance carrier. That's where your value comes into play. How am I going to make sure that this homeowner doesn't get done wrong? They get an ethical adjuster, and if they're not getting an ethical adjuster, let's request for another adjuster that's going to be ethical. These are major, major things that you need to do on the front end of the claim. You'll hear a lot of adjusters go, oh yeah, my right authority is only this. I'm only allowed to write for $20,000. I understand you have $100,000 worth of damage, but I'm only allowed to write for $20,000. So what happens then is they say, just put a supplement in. Supplements don't have timelines, which means if I'm putting a $50,000 supplement in, the insurance company, because they've already initiated the first payment, they've already met the requirement to get the first payment out to the homeowner, which means if that supplement takes 6 months, then it can take 6 months. Now, how do you put a supplement in? You can argue a supplement for months, or a homeowner pays for the supplement and then goes after the insurance company with a paid invoice. But then again, the insurance company can turn around and go, I don't accept that. We'll give you half. So it's very important for the restoration company to know how to deal with the insurance company, know the procedures, know the process, and start that argument. After 48 hours, so when I submit something to the insurance company on the mitigation side, they have 10 days to review it by law. 10 days.
10 days to review it by law.
48 hours after I submit it, I'm emailing somebody. What's the update?
Right.
Once that starts going, I continue to do it and continue to do it. On the 10th day, hey, your 10 days is up. I invoice the homeowner. Now, that invoice to the homeowner is not for the homeowner to pay it. That invoice for the homeowner is to give them visibility on what's coming. Now, what I can use now is I've invoiced that homeowner for the full amount. That puts pressure on the homeowner to put pressure on their insurance company.
Which you don't want to do, but now you have to team up.
But that's the thing. Your homeowner, your policyholder has got to be on your side. The insurance company do some nasty, nasty tactics to try to get that homeowner off of you. They're going to say, your contractor's estimate is inflated. It's not inflated. We all use Xactimate.
That's what I was going to talk about. What's the discrepancy then with these estimates and with what you know? And Xactimate is another term, okay?
So
when I look over, estimates for my clients, the restoration remediation companies who use Xactimate's, line items and everything, I'm like, okay, we're getting somewhere. The toughest ones to read are, we're going to do this, this, and this vague, and then there's this nice, massive round number at the bottom of their quote, and you're going, okay, we need to really talk. So talk about Xactimate and this discrepancy between the estimates.
So there should never be a discrepancy. So if I come into a home and I'm doing an adjustment with an adjuster, and we agree to a scope. So say, 2 foot flood cut, removing the floor, removing the shower pan, and 2 foot on the shower, the vanity, the countertop, all that. Those numbers should be exactly the same.
Right.
They should be.
And is that because of Xactimate?
Because of Xactimate.
Okay. So
they should be the same. So what happens is the adjuster will leave out line items. So say we're going to replace your floor. All right. He'll put R&R tile, 50 square feet. And that's it. No floor prep, no grinding, no leveling.
Wow.
None of that. So now our estimates are completely different because all of the sub things that need to happen are not happening. Now, a homeowner doesn't know that. Homeowner gets an estimate and they go, oh my God, your estimate's $30,000. Theirs is 15.
They think
you're trying to gouge me.
They think you're the bad guy. Wow.
Exactly. So all of that comes up front. You have to have that onboarding with that homeowner. You have to onboard that homeowner. Now, the insurance company is going to go, oh, you coached that homeowner. I didn't coach that homeowner. I didn't coach that homeowner at all. I told the homeowner what their rights are. And you don't want me to do that. So I'm not allowed to express my First Amendment right because you don't want me to do that because it's a conflict of interest for you if the homeowner knows what ALE is. If the homeowner knows that they have 30 days to pay out on the first claim. If the homeowner knows that they have 10 days to do a review. If the homeowner knew those things,
bam, then
it's bad. So you're going to beat me up when I tell the homeowner, hey, you should probably get an ALE. You should probably, get this, or this should be afforded, or that should be afforded.
I've seen some really bad remediation and restoration jobs. I've seen a lot of bad ones and a lot of bad eggs out there as well. But what I've seen almost more of is this misunderstanding of what you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis as a restoration remediation company and all these things you're talking about, and the really, really hard places you're put in with this triangle of homeowner, you, and the insurance company, and everyone, either passing it back and forth in these big discrepancies. Define though, what is Xactimate for the homeowners to know?
Xactimate
is that another kind of governing body standard?
It is.
Okay.
It is. So way back in the day, along with the IICRC becoming a standard, Xactimate became a standard as well. Because basically they said that, okay, here's the standard that we want this work to be done to. This is the work standard. Now here's the billing standard. So I have my scope, I have my price. Those two things need to come together. So Xactimate was developed for the insurance companies, and they run Xactimate. The insurance company owns Xactimate, which obviously is a conflict of interest, but they don't feel it is that way. The issue is guys like me learned Xactimate very, very well. And the 2,500 line items that are, in Xactimate, I get to use. So I've had adjusters go, man, I've never even seen that line item ever. And I'm like, it's because you're not doing your job. If you've never used a line item to remove window treatments, if you're telling me that you've never used that line item, then every adjustment that you've done before me, all those people never got window treatments removed or replaced or taken down for cleaning or anything like that.
Wow.
So these are the things that are left on the table that homeowners will never know about. All of a sudden they have a loss at their house and you go in there and, let's talk about, bad restoration companies as well. You see people who come in, whether they're a vendor for the insurance company or they're just so tired of getting beat up by the insurance company.
That's a big one.
They just give up.
Yeah.
Okay? They give up because if I bill the insurance company $20,000 on a job, I know that I'm going to be in a fight for that. I know it. So when the insurance company comes to me and says, yeah, your invoice is 20 grand, take 10 right now and be done. Sometimes you have to do that because they put you over the barrel. But here's what happens when you do that. If you accept that and they knock that estimate down to $10,000, they're removing line items that are legitimate line items. So if they remove those line items on the mitigation, those line items don't get addressed on the reconstruction.
Wow. Double.
So,
yeah.
Not only do you lose that line item on the MIT, you lose it on the restoration side too. And then the homeowner's going, arguing over, hey, why is this? Why do I have a 2-foot cut right here and I can see the seam and there's no matching of the wall? I've got texture right here, but the texture doesn't match up there. Well, that's because the insurance company didn't allow you to write for blending in that seam.
Wow.
And when a mitigation company that isn't willing to fight for their homeowner, they're not going to fight for that.
They're beat down, yeah.
So you don't get it. So then what do you do at that point? You pay out that contractor to get your house put back to the original state it was prior to the loss, which is the requirement by the insurance company, which is a contract. And everybody doesn't understand that. That policy, stop calling it a policy. It's not an insurance policy. It's an insurance contract between you and the insurance company. You being the customer, you paying for that.
Right.
And they are required to do what they're supposed to do and help you put your property back together to the original state.
Okay, wow. So you've seen it all. What percentage, if you had to guess, is the insurance? You mentioned the fresh blood, new insurance adjuster who's just ignorant, and that does work on the insurance company's benefit, versus adjusters who kind of do it on purpose to cover some things up or keep the estimate lower, and vice versa. So that's the insurance side. On the remediation side, what percentage, if you had to guess, are these restoration companies adding way too many line items at different times?
Well, all right. So percentage on the insurance side. When there is malice intent on an adjuster's part, it's very deliberate and it's very easy to see to the trained eye. I can tell the difference between an adjuster doing something that is for the insurance company to save money versus the adjuster who just didn't know.
Okay.
Like we had one the other day. And you could tell the adjuster never resequenced the line items. So you had 1, then you had 5, then you had 20, then you had 90. That immediately tells me right there that adjuster, when I see his product, that immediately tells me that the adjuster is not versed in Xactimate and does not know how to adjust. Because either that or he's just completely didn't care and didn't even think, hey, maybe I should resequence these numbers so it actually looks like I'm doing the right thing.
Right. You see more of that?
I see a lot of I see that all the time.
More of that.
So I see a lot of boxing out rooms instead of, a room isn't always a square box. Right. Sometimes there's insets, offsets, half walls, pony walls, all those things. An adjuster will go in there and he'll say, okay, this is a 12 by 12 foot room. Well, maybe a 12 by 12 foot room with a 2-foot closet. It may be a 24-inch offset, where the bed sits or something like that. Now
you add all those little things up, it's a whole different. Yeah.
So now what happens is a square room requires 4 fans. Okay? A room that isn't square and it has 18-inch offsets requires a fan. So now you have your 4 fans plus the offset fan. Okay? So now the insurance company will go, oh, there's only 4 fans required in that room. No, there's an offset there.
And this is IICRC requirement.
This is IICRC
Okay,
required.
so that's the requirement for the job to get done, and then Xactimate attaches a price to those requirements. So now it should be straightforward for
It should be.
yourself, where this is the requirement, these are my prices,
Yep.
bam, okay.
So then the insurance company sends your mitigation estimate off to a third party who goes, well, that's a square room. We're only going to give you 4 fans for that. And you go, no, there's a closet and there's an 18-inch offset. And they know that that is as per the IICRC, but they'll fight it.
Wow. Yeah, maybe we'll get into that too. You know, how much can the IICRC help somebody? Can it get involved? The IICRC is great because it exists, to be quite honest, and that should be enough. But you know, all the nuances of how these jobs actually happen. So I guess going back to this process, the homeowner's journey, your journey throughout this, adjuster gives the estimate, you give the estimate, maybe there's just a discrepancy. Give the homeowner a look into a day in your life, man. Because I know you said some money's held up at times. I know you said, you know, the tactics being used, the conversations you have to have on a day-to-day basis, like, what's that experience for you?
I spent a lot of time on the phone. I spent a lot of time on the phone. I spent a lot of time yelling at walls because basically that's all you can do. Homeowners, policyholders have no idea what we go through on our end. And again, it all depends on what company you're dealing with. Yeah. A company who's going to advocate for the homeowner is going to go through a lot of stuff. You're going to go through a lot of arguments. You're going to be called the bad guy. You're going to be called all sorts of stuff. You're going to be ignored. But you have to keep on pushing and pushing because it's for the homeowner. That's why the homeowner's got to be on your side, because if the homeowner's not on the side and the adjuster and the carrier's not on your side, you don't have a fight. You have to back off of that. So my day-to-day, I spend a lot of my days arguing line items with third-party administrating companies, which are, you know, they're the review companies, as well as insurance carriers and adjusters that say, we're not going to authorize this payment, or we're not going to approve these line items. And I have to try to get justification of why they are not doing it. So these justifications take a very long time. It's something the insurance company does is they'll remove my line items with no justification. But when I put my line items in, everyone has got an F9 note with a justification. And I can justify that because I go off of the IICRC, I go off the S500. When they remove a line item and I go, what's your justification for that? They go, I don't need it. Why not? Because I don't think it's necessary, in my opinion. That's your opinion.
Wow.
So I'm fighting an adjuster's opinion, not a standard. I'm fighting with an adjuster's guideline that the insurance company has come up with, not a standard. And that's one of the things that I explain to homeowners. When a third-party administrating company comes in, or a preferred vendor from Crawford Connect, Alacrity, Blue Cross, whatever, okay? They are working off of a standard. They have sold their souls. They signed down on a dotted line, and that insurance company told that mitigation company, which is going to be your franchises, they're the ones that are on the programs.
Right.
We know that's a $10,000 estimate. You're going to do it for $6,000. And we're not going to have an argument with you.
So then that mitigation company is guaranteed some money, not all that they are deserving of. But it's like, hey, I at least can get something.
Are you going to bite the hand that feeds you?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So now, it sets up the homeowner, and this is my work, is environmental health. So again,
that is where you come in.
Yeah, no, exactly. Every big mold issue that leads to health issues and bacteria, all these different things, started somewhere. Mold is a result of something. These environmental health problems are a result of something. The buildings and homes fail 20 plus different ways. We're talking if you can stop moisture, if you can control moisture, you will control mold. Okay. But these early steps is what a lot of my clientele might miss on because they're already sitting with a mold situation. I mean, there's a lot, man. I mean, there's renovated homes that have mold that just is covered up. There's all these maintenance people who came in and covered with kills only and didn't really, remove anything. No IICRC standards were used along we're inheriting the history of the home, and people are breathing the 3,000 gallons of air per day, and 2,000 gallons are in a contaminated recycled air box. This is all the stuff I teach. But why this conversation is so important is it's those early steps, early detection steps that we have to push in on hard, or else we wouldn't have. Mold is a result of something. So if we handle it at the beginning, the cause, then that result ideally shouldn't happen.
And that's where you get it. Okay, so preferred vendor comes in versus a independent contractor.
Oh man, and I've been the one on site to the jobs, and things are still saturated and mold's growing now, and I'm like, who did this job for you?
Exactly.
They set up a dehu and a fan and left and got their easy pay, and they didn't actually restore the job, because if they did actually restore the job, they would have been fighting the insurance and biting the hand that feeds.
Absolutely.
So now, we're...
So now you walk into a home that's a really nice property that the restoration company that was a preferred vendor, instead of removing the cabinets and doing it properly, they just drilled the holes in the toe kicks and they did injection drying. Although the sill plate behind that cabinet doesn't get dry. The drywall behind that cabinet doesn't get dry. Now, a year from now, you have an issue. And all of a sudden, it's behind those cabinets. And those cabinets now need to come out because they didn't come out the first time and dry properly. So now you have a huge issue. And what does the insurance company do? They go, not my problem. We're not covering mold.
Right,
you only have a $5,000 mold.
Right. And usually, it was your negligence. It was old. It's not on us. It's like, no, they knew from the beginning that they were gonna, cut it.
And as soon as that claim hits 365 days, that's it. Closed. You're done.
Wow.
You close that claim 365 days after that. If you don't have an issue, that's it. You own it.
And I have clients sometimes call me saying, why is my restoration company, they just will refuse to remove these tiles? They are
they're
fighting.
Told they will not.
This is huge, man. The tiles that, I mean, it's a big loss. They've done some removal, and I'm sitting there going, why is the restoration company fighting so hard not to remove some additional tiles that we're pretty sure, with all the tools we have, that it's not salvageable and it just needs to come up? I mean, why is it such a fight? And so I think we're kind of talking about that right now. It's that they know that if they push a little bit too much on the insurance company, they're in for a fight. And so who loses? The homeowner. This is why we're doing the conversation. It's for the homeowners.
And that's one of the things that, I'm not with a preferred vendor, and that is one of the reasons why is I am about standards.
Yeah.
I am about doing it better than the next guy. So that's why I don't do it.
And it's cost you in some ways, man. And it's cost you a lot of stress. And that's where I got a ton of respect for you. Is you're a military guy. I mean, before a military guy, you're a good heart. And I know that about you. Before you ever went in the military, you had a good heart. You don't just get the type of perspective and the fairness that you see the world with, as it should be, just because of military. Now, military, I think, solidified it for you in a lot of ways, because it was life and death. It was other people's lives. I mean, we should probably have a whole conversation just on your military experience and everything that's going there. And it's like, man, who do you want on your side? You want a veteran restoration. I mean, you want someone, if they're going to do it with the right heart and do it in this way. And that's why, again, I haven't had this conversation with another restoration company. And there's a lot of great remediators and restoration companies out there, a ton of them. But the conversations we have and the lens that you look at all this through is massive. So that's why, your company may suffer some things, but if your voice can be heard, that's a much bigger long-term win for a lot of different people. So thank you.
The biggest thing is just getting the homeowner on your side, educating the homeowner, And it comes with a fire hose. And that's what's so, when you have a large loss and your life gets turned upside down, a lot of information is coming at you all at once. You don't know who to believe. You don't know who to trust. All of a sudden I show up at your door.
Right.
And you have no idea who I am. Now, my goal is to make sure that you are taken care of and make sure that my company is taken care of and that my integrity is intact.
Yeah.
And that's really where it comes down to. My integrity has to be intact with my company because that's the way, we are. Now, it's just really difficult when the insurance company starts beating us up and trying to play the homeowner, and they do it every time. They, like for the one that I was talking to when I came in here, that adjuster has not spoken to me at all. Why is he not speaking with me? Because he would rather run the homeowner through the ringer and make her give up because then he doesn't have to deal with me. So being there, advocating for the homeowner and getting that homeowner on your side and helping that homeowner understand the process, which is really, really hard because they're already upset.
Right.
I don't go to see people like a police officer. When I'm getting called, nobody's happy to see me. I'm walking into a situation that is usually frantic. It's usually, water's coming out of my ceiling. There's water all over the place. My things are being ruined.
Can I trust you?
And who are you? You're coming into my insurance company saying they're going to send somebody over to me. Now you're here. And,
Wow.
who do I trust? Who do I believe? Well, I can tell you this. The one that your insurance company is sending you works for the insurance company. I do not. Now, you may not even like me, but I guarantee I'm going to fight for you more than that guy is. You don't need to like me. I feel this way, when it comes to business, I really feel that way. I have people that I do business with that I don't like. I just, as long as their integrity is in place, I'm okay.
Yeah.
They may be assholes. Sorry to say it that way. But if they do a good job and their integrity is there and they show up when they're supposed to show up and they do what they're supposed to do when they're there, I'm still going to work with that individual.
Yeah.
Because there's so many out there that won't. So sometimes it's not about who you like to work with versus who you need. And sometimes, I'm the animal that you need
you are.
to get you through that claim.
There's a hierarchy of values, and integrity ought to be number one. I say for every good inspector, there's things beyond the expertise. It's curiosity. I'm going to take my time. I'm going to be very curious about what I'm doing. I'm just assessing. Care, got to give a damn, and a clear conscience. And that's the integrity part that people don't really throw that word around. It's a strong one because a lot of people kind of go against their conscience day by day and sear it. And the more we can do things with true integrity and not just market it, but really live it in the way that you do is huge. And you need someone like that on your side. So I don't expect a homeowner in that frantic state to just trust anybody. And they've maybe already been beaten down in the past. So I get that. Yeah, you got to earn it. But I do need to kind of at times help homeowners say, hey, give a little, and this is a powerful phrase. Give me 10% of your trust and I will earn the other 90. Like I just give me a little bit of what you have here and we'll rock and roll. What are some pros and cons for you as a restoration company for an insurance job? I know with a lot of cons so far, but are there any pros and cons of an insurance job and pros and cons of a self-pay job from the homeowner to you directly?
So self-pay, if a homeowner can do self-pay, it's always good.
Yeah.
Even if they're going to be doing an insurance claim, if they pay up front, then that invoice gets sent to the insurance company and that becomes an incurred cost. So the insurance company can't go, we're not going to pay for that. It's now an incurred cost. So when a customer does a self-pay, it's actually been very beneficial for them. The problem is losses are expensive, and not everybody can pay for that.
Right.
So, there's pros and cons to either one. Not everybody is honest, and you do run into that, where you'll have somebody who customer pay, and then next thing you know, you don't get paid. You do run into those things. The pros to it, when you don't have to deal with the insurance company, you just deal with the homeowner, and they have the ability to pay the invoice, that's always going to be good. The cons to it is potentially they can't afford to do it.
Yeah.
And they are left with a mitigation that's either done incorrectly or not done at all.
Right.
Now, as for me, I will not do the mitigation if I can't do it correctly. I will walk away and I'll say, look, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not the company for you. We are not a good fit because my name is on this.
Yeah.
And everything I do, my name is going to be part of, whether it's my personal name or it's my company name.
Yeah.
And I mean, I refused to put a floor in for somebody because they wanted it done incorrectly. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. Because if anybody ever looks at that and you say, oh yeah, Veteran Restoration did that, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I don't want that karma on me. So no, I won't do that.
Yeah.
And then of course, pros and cons of the insurance company, we've been talking about that quite a bit. There's really no pro to it.
Unless they do pay quick, and is there any way to speed that process up other than just hounding them? I mean,
No.
does it ever go smooth where our estimates line up, you get the payment, and we just keep rolling on?
It used to. It used to. I can remember days where I, met on location with an adjuster, and we literally sat there with our computers together and came up with an agreed scope.
Wow. Is that the way it's to be done? I mean,
That's the way it should be done. And I have done it.
Sounds easy enough.
And when COVID hit, all of that ended. It literally ended as soon as COVID hit, because then all the insurance companies went to virtual adjustments, where they would pick up this phone.
Right, how does that even?
And call the homeowner and have the homeowner walk them through the house on a virtual adjustment and take pictures.
Wow.
Now, can you see the different layers underneath that tile from a picture?
No, not at all.
No, you can't.
Not at all.
So when an adjuster says, I can only write for what I see, well, I didn't see the underlayment. I didn't see all these things underneath. I didn't see any of that, so I didn't write for that.
Easy.
So then what do you got to do? Put a supplemental in. And if a supplemental takes 2 months, you're still left without your job being completed.
Wow.
And while you're sitting there as a homeowner, not living in your house because you have to live someplace else, and your claim is hit the 3rd month, 4th month, 5th month, and not a single hammer has been swung yet?
No, I deal with clients all the time. They just have a ripped up house. And I'm like, we did need to get it, to that state. But I mean, you can't just be living in a, halfway, built house now. And that's a tough one. And I'm so aware, it's a big reason why I do what I do. And there's massive limitations to what I do virtually for people. But as a third party, IEP assessor, we can get a good amount accomplished. I don't claim that your video call and your photos is going to show us everything, but that's why I have the costs that I have, and we get a lot accomplished, and we give all this custom, information to the homeowner and empower them with vetting this entire process and knowing what they need to know. So that's the value in that. But the limitations that we run into, and then how that costs the homeowner, and that's my biggest thing. Is I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but I know this industry enough to know it can get expensive and where to allocate resources, and to go back to an IICRC standard, to go back to an Xactimate pricing, and to allocate resources effectively. What's our priority areas, what we need to do here, because most of my clients, it's already the 4-letter M word that's happened, and most everyone is in the self-pay. And it's a tough one. It's really, really tough to see these big estimates, to even charge people $1 for me being just the detection. Like when you're working with me, the solution you're getting is the idea of the solution and the plan, the detection, and a lot of peace of mind, hopefully, and a lot of custom education. But as an IEP, I'm not solving the actual mold issue and rebuilding your house back. So there are a lot of costs, and that's not even the health costs that they have to incur, and if there are mechanical systems involved. I mean, there are so many costs, associated with all this. So it's a tough one.
So when it comes to cost, if you have an event, whether it's a fire, water, a sudden event, somebody has to do the work. No matter what, somebody has to do it. So you have a lot of people who my insurance company told me I need to get 3 estimates. That is complete BS. You do not need to get 3 estimates. You can work with whoever you want. That's just not the way it works. But a lot of homeowners, especially if you go into an event, you'll have people go, "Oh, you're here just to make $1." Your house catches on fire, and you've got 3 companies out there who are trying to get that work. And it upsets you that they're there. You look at it like, oh man, you guys are just trying to make $1 off my back and off of my misfortune. That's a way to think of it. But there's also another way to think of it. Who else is going to do it? Do you have the ability to do it?
Right.
Do you have the knowledge to do it? Vet the companies. Somebody has to do it. So don't turn your nose up when somebody shows up at your house wanting that work. Be vigilant in what you're doing and make sure that that person fits what you need done. But don't really turn your nose. That's what I think a lot of homeowners do. They go, oh man, everybody's out here. They're just trying to get this, just trying to get this. Yeah, that is correct. But somebody has to do it. And it comes at a high cost. And you can either hire this guy who is going to do half the job and leave you with a high expense, or another guy and another company that's going to fight your insurance company, do what's supposed to be done, do it the right way. And although it's going to be a hell of a time and you're going to suffer, everybody's going to suffer. The restoration company is going to suffer. The homeowner's going to suffer. And we need to make the insurance company suffer too.
Right.
And really, that's what it has to be done. And the cost of hiring the wrong person is way more than the cost of, what it would be with the right person.
And these people are paying for homeowners insurance, or the transaction's already being done. So got to get it done and deliver on it. What do homeowners not know about the remediation and restoration industry? And I think it's a good follow-up to what you just said on the pricing and kind of the intent. But are there any other things that you think homeowners just are clueless of what you have to deal with, or how this all needs to be handled?
What I would say is not really clueless, but a licensed trade, you're licensed for a reason. You're licensed and you're required to be an expert at what you do. The homeowner's not an expert. So you can go on Google, you can look at the S500, you can read a couple things. Doesn't make you an expert.
Yeah.
Somebody who's done 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 mitigations, that's the expert right there.
Yeah.
So really it comes down to, that experience, having that experience. And I do run into homeowners every once in a while that go, well, you're not supposed to do that. And if that happens on the first day, I usually pack up. If you've never done it before,
Yeah.
and you're already saying that I'm not doing something right, it's time to go. And you have customers like that. You do have customers like that. So you have to be comfortable with being able to walk away from certain things that, they may look all nice and shiny, but it may not be that shiny. And you may get yourself into a lot of issues.
Let me say my piece on this. We're in the information age. Everything we need to know is accessible. Mm-hmm. Google is a start, yes, but these documents, right, on these standards. Anybody can go and learn. You got educators like myself and like others who are educating according to the standards, not opinion, not just theory. Okay, so when I do virtual consulting with people, you know how irresponsible it would be if I was doing virtual consulting and I hadn't had hundreds of inspections under my belt.
100%.
Above and beyond, some IEPs don't even know the S500 and S520 as well. I mean, if I'm the diagnostic doctor of the home, let's call it, and I'm giving a surgical plan or procedure to then hand to you to write your estimate off of, makes the job easier for you. I need to know what the process of that surgery is so that we're speaking the same language and we're in line. When I'm more vague and I don't know what you're supposed to be doing as the third-party inspector, and that's not the point of this conversation, it's the remediation and restoration world. However, there's a third-party assessor many times that has to come in and buffer these. But if I don't know what you're supposed to be doing, I don't oversee the project at times, I don't come back and do clearance, I don't know what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, I'm not the IEP that anyone needs to be using in this process. That immediately disqualifies me. So why I'm even offering virtual consulting for people is because I know kind of in the inspection and remediation world, I know pretty much everything that's needed to be done on that. There's different philosophies. Do we, use this type of product? When do we use this? Does this get removed? How does the cleaning procedures go? That's where the IEP, myself, will kind of drive the boats on certain things, but I'm not just guessing or throwing in random, solutions. It's off the IICRC guidelines and standards here that I'm writing off of, and they're in place because they work. That's the other thing, is we need to trust that if it's done well, it's going to work. And what happens, unfortunately, in this information age that we have and all the accessible information, is the homeowners can know this stuff in theory, and there are guys not like you who don't follow those guidelines. So I tell my homeowners all the time, you do need to have a little bit of understanding of what I'm coaching you on with the IICRC, so that you're bringing in this qualified professional. And if you're speaking that language and someone like you walks through the door, you're probably happier. I mean, maybe they'll be a little pickier, but hey, we're going to do this thing the right way. That's fine. But if the restoration guy comes in and he is kind of a maverick and just doing whatever, maybe it's even not insurance. Maybe it's just, hey, we're going to fog the place and make a few thousand on cleaning the house. And it's like, dude, you're trying to just get some money for this job and not actually find that there's a right way to identify these issues and handle them. So I try to empower the homeowners with that. Educate on the front end. I think it can make the industry better overall, that guys like you and myself, hopefully, and others are adhering to it. The other side of this, because I'm going to see always both sides, is that when the homeowner or these other newly qualified self-promoting experts come in and start doing the consulting work that I'm doing, or something similar, and they haven't done an inspection in their life, and they haven't overseen a remediation project in their life. They haven't written the protocol, watched the dynamics. On paper, Google, this person's story could be nice information and maybe correct. How that applies in this home based on that measurement, that path of moisture, this contamination, secondary, the microbiology world that's so unknown, you can't be so strict to now put on Steve and his team, no, you're supposed to do it this, and this way because I read the article. And even if the article was true, there's a lot of nuanced dynamics in every situation that will be customized. So I teach people how to vet professionals like you. And so it's very, very important. But when it comes down to it, you have to have that on-site experience to see what we're seeing and know what materials need to be, and going off that guideline every time, because it is one of the most frustrating things when you've got someone just standing their ground, being extra strict because of what they've just simply read, the certification course they got online, and they haven't walked through an actual home and seen a process A to Z hundreds of times. It's a big rant. I could continue to go on. It's massive. People are making money saying, oh, your test results are high. You're going to probably need to do all these things. You have no clue. You're trying to get to a mold-free environment. That's already should never be anyone's expectation. Mold safe is kind of a term I've been using to get it lowered. But there's so many dynamics that you can't just have this idea in your head that you're now going to strictly put your inspector to find every last thing and your remediator to get every final thing done. there's definite, red flags and missed things and malpractices that can happen. And that's why I always say, find a remediator who's willing to work with you. Like if they know, oh my gosh, my containments fell down and I really, and they're going to do right by you and go and handle it, that's the guy you want in your corner. Not every job's going to go perfect. You just hired a new guy, or you're a guy who was really good, got sick, or, there's so many different things on a day-to-day basis. When I was asking you, what do homeowners not know about the restoration remediation, industry? It's the amount of turnover. It's how tired your guys are from the 3 a.m. loss the night before, and now they're in your house doing a final, HEPA vacuum and cleaning, and they leave some dust behind. I am, as IEP objective, dude, you didn't clear that. You got to get this place clean. That's my standard. I have to, hold you guys to, and the homeowners too. But if the homeowners are getting pissed off and not understanding those dynamics of it, it's like this guy was up till the crack of dawn doing a very hard job. We need to give a little bit of grace while still adhering to that.
Yeah, I agree with that. The standard is the standard. I don't care if you're tired or not.
Of course.
You need to uphold the standard.
And I will hold them to it as well. I'm just saying there's kind of a level of expectation, and this kind of, well, I had a botched remediation. It can just, this quick impulsive thing. And I know it's a very fragile situation, but there's dynamics to it.
And it all depends. I'm big on education when it comes to the homeowner. Sometimes I overeducate, and it's too much. I have pulled that back a little bit. It all depends on the person you're dealing with, and if they're receptive to it, if they can absorb it, and
they want it,
if they've already got a million things going on. The last thing they want to know is how a restoration job is conducted, and what's a category 1, 2, or 3, and how many fans I'm putting in, and how many dehumidifiers, and why I'm doing it. And I do find myself talking about that sometimes, and I think to myself, man, why am I doing this? I'm not teaching them how to do restoration.
Right, yeah.
Now, does it help them understand it? The process? Yes. I want them to understand the process. My process is actually pretty quick. It's the process of the insurance company. I always get this question, how long is it going to take? Depends on your insurance company. It's only going to take me 3 to 4 days. Well, your rebuild may take 6 months, because you may be arguing for 6 months. I've had this many times where I've gone into a property and they're like, we're going to have this done in 30 days? And I'm going, the chances of you even having it reviewed by your carrier in 30 days is about 10%. So, because it's a tactic.
Yeah, let's get into tactics and timelines. Those were really like key terms that we've spoken about. What are some of the tactics used, and then what are some of these timelines that need to be upheld versus the timelines that they actually push, and what they're capable of doing with those timelines? So
it's supposed to be 30 days. So from the time that you put a claim in, okay, you put the claim in on the 1st of the month. Within the 30 days, the insurance company should have had an inspector out there, created an estimate for the loss, and sent you a check to start the process. It just doesn't happen anymore. So they have 30 days. Depending on if it's a day claim versus a event, which is going to be a hurricane named storm, then they have 45 days and up to 120 days to pay the restoration companies.
Oh, wow.
So, there are different stipulations when it comes to whether it's just a day claim, my water heater went out, or, Hurricane Ian just came through and ripped my roof off. And, every single house in the neighborhood is destroyed. So they have a little bit better limitation. They get a little bit of grace. But when it comes to a day claim, normal every day.
You mentioned something about a 10-day period for something.
So normally on the mitigation, once you submit the mitigation, they have 10 days to do a review. And within that 10 days, they're supposed to get back to you with a comparative estimate, or if they're not happy with something in a line item, that they give you a call, or usually to put it in an email, and they'll say, we're not going to approve these line items. And at that point, you go back to that email, copy, cut, and paste that email, go to every one of the line items, and you request for the justification of that line item being removed in red. I always red pen it. So,
and back to this, you're not incentivized to add a bunch of line items just for the heck of it to try to make some more money, because it's going to cost you so much fighting for that anyway.
It's going to take a lot more time.
So what I'm trying to say is the likelihood of you gouging and a million extra line items, like what percentage of restoration and remediation companies are even doing that?
I don't think a lot of them are doing it.
It takes.
I think a lot of them are doing less than they are more.
That's what I'm.
Because
yeah.
they want to get paid.
Right.
They don't want to argue.
Get something.
So
Get something out of it.
You know, they're not going to do it. They may know that, hey, I know I need to cut that, but I'm just going to do injection drying, because they know that if I cut it, I may not get paid for it.
And that's the thing that my clientele are. I mean, 18,000 followers on Instagram. I did no marketing push or ploy to get a bunch of followers. It just kind of naturally happened over the last 5+ years, and they're pretty educated for the most part, or they're going through my education, so they kind of know their stuff. And that's where it will happen. A restoration company is kind of now fighting the homeowner, and the homeowner's kind of correct, or I directed them. It's like they sent me a photo or told me what the heck happened. I'm like, no, we need to take it a little further of removal here, or make sure that's clean, or don't paint over that with anything right now. And don't just fog the rest of the house to kind of think that cleans it up. There's a lot of those cases. So the homeowners are educated, and that's a big goal of mine. But seeing the opposite side, that's why the remediation companies may be trying to fight them, and it's all back to the insurance.
So that, and if you're a restoration company and you inflate your estimate and you build it out, you are putting yourself in a position where you're going to be investigated by the insurance company. And once that happens, and you get that little red check next to your name, whatever the carrier is, whether it's Allstate, Liberty Mutual, State Farm, every single estimate you ever put in will be scrutinized to no end. They will beat you up on every single one. They beat you on everyone anyway. Once you don't have integrity and you're labeled as an integrity violator, there's nothing you're going to do.
Wow.
You're going to get ate up. So any restoration companies doing that, you can get away with it for a little bit, but you won't continue.
This conversation alone will open up people's eyes to those initial 48 hours of a loss, and how to handle it, and what all happens, and all those dynamics to, again, prevent mold. Most of my clients they already have the mold situation happen from again, previous owners, or things that weren't handled properly, or they just found it and it was unknown, whatever it might be. That's where I, the inspector, come in and assess those different things. And there really shouldn't be a fight that way. Really, it's just money. Can we self-pay this, and what it's going to cost? Because if me as the inspector finds 3 source areas and recommend that carpets get replaced and extra cleaning, I have no incentive to write up a massive protocol. I want to lower the protocol simply just for their financial,
Yeah, it is hard.
aspect, but I have to be honest and say, this is what we need to get done. And then that's where my protocol gets to you, and you write your estimate just very easy. It's just right off of that. Now I'm liable in a way for your price. Maybe we'll get 2 estimates from people, but if you're using Xactimate and you're using my protocols, your estimate should look fairly similar.
Yeah,
and this is where
Xactimate goes off of local pricing.
Yeah.
So you put the zip code in, and it's going to collect the pricing for that area, for the building materials and everything that's for that area.
Yeah. So again, most of my clients, it's already a mold situation. Third-party inspector does his job. You guys write the estimate, we get that done. And if it can all be done according to the protocol, and the clearance assessment can come on and make sure that it was all done well, we have a great situation. The biggest downside is, did it already impact your health? Did that already, hurt and traumatize you and your family in some ways? We can't do much about that except just keep your head up, take it one step at a time. Don't let it scar you too much. Just keep progressing forward. Life is not easy. But as far as the job getting done, it can get done. It can get done successfully. And me trying to give people those, solutions and hope that it's really now it's just financial and it's some of those kind of emotional and health scars that we need to deal with.
Emotionally, I think that's one of the biggest, when you're talking about a fire, the losses that you take on a fire, the emotional toll that it takes on everybody involved, it's so difficult. And I see it all the time. And I guess that's why I take things a little bit more personal when it comes to the carriers, because they don't see that side, because they're sitting in an office someplace sending an email out. I'm the one who looks at the homeowner. I'm the one who talks to the homeowner. I'm the one who sits with the homeowner. So that emotional side to me is huge. And if I can help put peace in their mind, then that's what I'm going to do. And sometimes it's not easy, because sometimes I got to tell you the bad news. I got to tell you, hey, we got to tear all this out, and it's gonna suck, and you're not going to be happy, and you're going to yell at me, and you're just going to be upset, and I'm going to take a little bit of the beating, until it gets too much, and then then I'm going to put you in your place, because that's just the way it is. I mean, being a business owner isn't just about being beat up. If you have the education and you understand what you're supposed to do, sometimes you do need to say, hey, I am the expert. Let me do my job, and I'm going to get you where you need to be. Yeah. And it's not that easy, and I'm sorry that it's not that easy, but I can yes you to death and be the nicest guy in the world. That's not going to get you what you need. Right. So.
Yeah. It's good, man. Okay, so what are some of the biggest injustices? And you have, I know, dozens and dozens of stories, but if it's a story or two, or if it's just in general, the biggest injustices you've experienced in this industry?
I think it's really malicious adjusters that try to deny claims or deny claims for no reason. Trying to find loopholes to deny a claim. You see it a lot. Sadly enough, I see it a lot in more older people. So 65 years old above, they're preyed on. Wow. They're preyed on so much because they don't know. They have no idea. And not even that they don't have an idea, they're through their life, they're retired, they're not ready for something like that. And,
easy target, unfortunately.
As we get older, all of us, as we get older, we have a tendency to accept certain things and let it roll off our back, which we wouldn't do when we were younger. A little bit more quick flash to bang when you're younger than you are when you're older, because you think to yourself, man, do I want to fight this fight again? Do I want to go through this again? And technology. You got a young guy walking into a 65-year-old, 70-year-old's house who is rambling on. He's got iPhones, iPads, all these crazy gadgets and all this stuff, and they have no idea what's going on. You confuse them. They don't understand because you're not speaking to them properly, and you're not educating them properly. So it's just,
wow.
It's a big deal. I see a lot of it, quite a bit. I think I lost track a little bit on that one, but
no, that's a big one. I mean, I can literally see in your eyes all the stories and situations and scenarios of different people, and I've heard you on the phone. I know the.
So an injustice that we're currently having right now is $1 million home, water heater burst, flooded come down from the attic, hit the second floor, went through the second floor down to the first floor. Hand scraped wood floors, really, really nice house, $1 million home. Very, very well kept. Adjuster goes out, writes an estimate for $26,000, tells the homeowner, There's more damage, but all you got to do is put a supplemental in. Basically, homeowner doesn't know anything, sets the homeowner up. She's thinking, okay, this isn't going to be that big. That's not going to be this big of a deal. But you've only given me $26,000. I have a 4,500 square foot floor plan. 2,000 square foot of that floor plan is my first floor, and that is hand scraped wood floors. You can't even sand down and re-scrape and do everything you need to do for $26,000 on that large of a floor plan. So we get hired and we go to battle. Our estimate comes out to $102,000. This is before the pack out. Pack out's probably going to be around 30 or 40. So 102,000 is what it's looking like before the pack out of this property. Now, the adjuster wrote for nothing. Didn't write for any content manipulation, not a pack out, nothing. He wrote for remove, replace floors, no floor prep, no nothing. So now we're in a situation where we have an estimate that's 102,000. They have an estimate that's 26,000. So we have to do something here. The estimate is so horrible that the adjuster wrote, which again, it kind of runs into how long has this guy been adjusting? And being this was a large loss, why was he even on it? Because when you walk in and you immediately see that this is something that is too big for you,
right?
Because there's levels. And hey, if I only have a $20,000 or $50,000 right authority, I'm not equipped to do a large loss. And you could tell by his estimate. And just by the sketch itself, you could tell. He didn't know how to do spiral stairs. There were certain things that are very difficult in Xactimate that you need to learn how to do. And if you don't do it, then you're never going to be able to get the proper square footage.
Wow.
So if I'm writing an estimate for you and I do a 12 by 12 foot room, and that room is actually, say 12 by 13, and there's hand scraped wood floors in there, you're missing a lot of square footage.
Yeah.
For them hand scraped wood floors.
Yeah.
A lot. So where does that come from?
Because there's a key term, getting the place back to a pre-loss condition, right?
Pre-loss condition.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's why you're not just going rogue with this and trying to do things a certain, way over the top. You're trying to go by the standard.
By the standard. And we
condition.
provide ITEL reports. The ITEL report, what an ITEL report is the material that we are removing. We get a sample of that material. We test the sample of that material. And then an ITEL report is going to tell us whether or not that material, say it's flooring or tile or something like that, whether that is available any longer.
Right.
Because it may not be available anymore. So what ends up happening is, the insurance company goes, well, we're going to match this floor, but you can't match the floor because the material is not available anymore. Luckily, in the state of Texas, we are a matching state, which means if I, am removing your countertop and that countertop is broken, the other pieces may not be broken, but I replace all of it because I can't have a different matching, color. So in this instance, when you have a gap that's that large, in this case, we have a, $75,000+ difference in the gap, you go to appraisal at that point because there is no negotiating with, why am I going to bring this guy back into the property who wrote an estimate for $26,000 who doesn't know how to write an estimate? Why am I going to argue with you? Why am I going to have a conversation with you? I need to teach you how to use Xactimate and how to write an estimate before I even have this conversation with you.
Right.
So at this point, you're not even on the same playing field as I'm on. So you take it to an appraisal. The homeowner has a right to appraisal. It's in their policy that they have the right to appraisal if they feel that they are not being treated fairly and that the estimate does not meet the standard.
And this is a third-party appraiser.
It's a third-party appraiser. This takes the insurance company out of the equation. It takes the restoration company out of the equation. So homeowner hires an appraiser, insurance company hires an appraiser. Those two come together on a location, and they create a scope together on location. This way, when they put the numbers to everything, at that point in time, those estimates should be pretty close to each other, within maybe $1,000.
Right.
So that's what the appraisal process is. Injustice that I'm seeing right now is when the homeowner put the appraisal in, the insurance company has 20 days to respond to that appraisal and hire their own appraiser. In this case, she put the appraisal in on the 30th of December. On the 3rd of January, she received a call. The adjuster told her that if she goes to appraisal, they're going to drop her. It was the first threat that she got. She goes, "What are you talking about?" The adjuster says, "You don't need to go to appraisal. All you got to do is put supplementals in." Now, let me back that up. If you put a supplement, if you agree to that, and you put a supplemental in and you start the process, you start the work. Okay, so the contractor comes in, he starts swinging hammers. You've now lost your right to appraisal because the work has already started.
Wow.
So now, if you were to hire an appraiser, the two appraisers can't come to an agreement because work has already started. So it's a tactic that the insurance company uses to get you off when they say, no, we'll come in, we'll do a reinspection, we'll send another guy out there to do a reinspection to work with your contractor, and we'll give you some money to get you started. Well, what they just did was they removed your ability to go to appraisal because you have to request an appraisal first.
Wow.
So that's what they're trying to do right now on this one. They're trying to get her to go with a supplemental versus the appraisal. So the first call was on the 3rd of January where they tried to push her off of going to an appraisal. The second call was to me the other night when this individual had said, "I think that you submitted the appraisal letter on your own and that it didn't come from the homeowner." And I said, let's stop right here. Jacqueline has already spoken to the homeowner, and the homeowner has already verbally said that she wants to go to appraisal. So now she's notified you by, your form. She's notified you that she wants to go to appraisal. And now you're putting a roadblock in. Jacqueline called her and tried to get her off to go to appraisal. She verbalized, "I want to go to appraisal." Now you're calling me 30 days later trying to tell me let's do a reinspection and not go to appraisal. So you're not denying her the appraisal process, but you're making it as hard for it as you possibly can for her to go to the appraisal process. And meanwhile, you're beating this lady's mind down. You're trying to defeat her mentally for her to give up and just go, okay, whatever, just send your own people and do your own thing. And then she doesn't get the work done. She comes out of pocket. And then she submits her insurance. She submits her receipts to the insurance company. She never gets paid.
Oh my goodness.
So that's the biggest injustice that I'm seeing right now, is the fact that these are the type things that they're doing, or just deny the claim altogether.
Right. Wow. So homeowners have some rights. They need to know those. You can touch on them. I'm just thinking from the homeowner's perspective, what are some just basic things they can do to get on top of this? I mean, something happens, getting their own restoration company out there is a first one. Rejecting supplementals, is that across the board a good recommendation for them? Like I'm trying to think, what are the top 3 to 5 bullet points that homeowners need to be aware of to say don't fall into the tactic?
So where I'm at is, if my estimate is within $10,000 of the adjuster's estimate, that's supplemental. I can supplement that. Anything over
Within
$10,000 is not supplemental. It's just not. If there's a difference of $10,000 on a job, I can normally negotiate that with the adjuster, come to an agreed scope and an agreed price, and never have to involve the homeowner. And then they get their settlement, and we say, okay, we're off to the races. We're going to start the work. And I may take a little bit less, but I'm getting the homeowner taken care of. When it's egregious, and you're talking 20, 30, 40, 50, 60,000, they have to go to appraisal or get a PA. Now, the only reason why I would use a public adjuster is if there was coverage issues where the insurance company was saying, we're not going to cover something. A coverage issue is different than a non-covered issue. Okay, so I go to appraisal when I know that the loss is covered and all perils are covered. And all I'm arguing is line items. If I have to argue coverage, then I bring a PA in.
Got you.
And I try not to bring a PA in. I can pretty much do everything, although sometimes we'll bring a PA in. PAs are useful, but they do slow down a claim. So
Right.
if you're going to use a public adjuster, you have to be ready for a very long fight, to be out of your property for a long time. You're going to get what you deserve, but it is going to take a longer time. And usually that's because there's a coverage issue. I would never bring a PA in and put a homeowner through anything like that if there wasn't a coverage issue. And I haven't seen very many coverage issues lately. I just see stalling, delaying, and everything else.
Yeah. So those are the main tactics then. Stalling and delaying things is kind of and there's many different ways they can
Swapping
do that.
out your adjuster on the last day, like what they just did today.
Wow.
You know, we hit our 30-day mark,
Right.
and then they swap the adjuster out. So now the process starts all over again. Now they're already in the wrong. They already didn't meet their requirements. So the new adjuster that comes in is going to be super under the gun. He's going to be immediately, he or she is going to be immediately on defense because they know what they're coming into. They're coming into a firing range, and rightfully so. So, they have that too.
If there was a company like yourself in every town in America, then that's who we got to recommend, is someone who's going to know this stuff through and through, do it the right way, all those different things. But how, if that doesn't exist, how do we get the homeowner to have the best odds on this? Is there, again, a certain thing they should always say no to with the insurance companies? Is there a certain way to vet the restoration company on the front end to say,
never accept their estimate. Never.
The insurance estimate?
Never accept it.
Okay. And then when you're vetting the restoration remediation company, are you asking them, do you know insurance through and through? Like what's some language around that?
Look at their reviews. See what people are saying. See if people are going into a review where a customer says something to the effect of, my insurance company underpaid and this company made them pay what they were supposed to pay. We pride ourselves on that, and we have enough reviews that basically say that.
Yeah.
For instance, I brought a guy on years ago, and we ended up on a huge job, and he had only been with me, just started. He was with me a total of 39 hours. Okay. We had finished up a job, and that afternoon at about 4 o'clock, we get a phone call. And homeowner says to me, hey, I got a toilet broke. I need somebody over here. And I said, okay. Ended up I said, where do you live? Blah, 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 blah. Come to find out, 7,000 square foot house. Humongous. So we pretty much use every fan that's on our shelves at this point. You know, we get the trailer, the big demo trailer out, or not demo trailer, but the race trailer. We fill the race trailer up. We get all the equipment over there. And then even had to get some more equipment after that. The mitigation came to about $135,000 for this property. This employee was doing a lot of walking around, not a lot of work. And then he asked me for some paperwork. And it kind of made me feel a little bit weird. Like I said, why are you asking me for company paperwork? And his thought process and what he said was, oh, well, I can make this, digitize this and make it a little bit easier for you to work with and use. And I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. He ended up leaving not too long after that, like a couple hours after that. And about a month later, he pops back up. And he says, hey, man, I'm starting my own mitigation company. What equipment do you recommend? And I went, you worked 39 hours, a total of 39 hours in the industry, and now you're starting your own company. He saw the money that can be made.
Yeah.
So, boom, he's off.
That was enough.
Okay. Now you have a restorer out there, and I looked at his reviews, and he probably had 20 of his friends leave a review, which none of them have anything to do with restoration. Mm-hmm. So now you have a company that has a 5-star.
Oh yeah, that's common.
Right? And none of the reviews have anything to do with restoration. The guy's got no experience. And then he shows up at your house and does not know what he's doing at all, or how to deal with your insurance company. You're in a lot of trouble at that point. And sadly enough, I've been at jobs where I've been called in by other insurance carriers to finish a job from a company that didn't do it right. Mm-hmm. And we have that happen. I have actually been paid for that, had a company have to bring me back out or bring me out to a job that another company was already on.
Oh yeah. No, I had a lady, I think there's mold growing here. I thought I got it dried out. My insurance company sent one of the big name franchises out, and I'm seeing mold grow now, and the funky smell right there in my mom's sector of the home. I get out there and I'm like, saturation everywhere with my moisture meter, and I'm like looking at it. Who dried this? And oh yeah, they had a dehumidifier for this many days in one fan, and that was that, and growth happened after, and then had to bring me in the third party to kind of bring that. That was a big light bulb moment because of the amount of then time and more removal, and you literally made the job 10 times worse. So now my theory is, what if all these mold issues, and there's a lot of reasons we got a lot of mold issues in the world right now, a lot. Lack of good maintenance, how the buildings are used, the type of building materials we do use, when they get wet, what they tend to produce. There's so many reasons why mold happens, but the more you're talking, the more I'm realizing, what if a lot of these inherited old mold issues in these, they're moving into the house and they're finding all this old mold. What if there was insurance claims because again, the mold happened somehow or from some moisture somewhere. It was either fully missed and no one knew it ever happened and that's that, or it was an undone drying insurance with this whole preferred vendor situation. And then down the road, these things, the more things you shove under the rug, you're going to trip over it later. And that's what's happening with a lot of these inherited mold issues.
It is 100%.
Wild stuff. We just moved in the house and all the kids are now showing symptoms and the eczema is high all of a sudden. And we didn't have, it happens all the time with the health aspect. We're not even talking about in this, and it's not for this discussion, but that down the road, not doing it right early on is what it tends to cost. And then all the medical bills with that.
And that's really the education that the homeowner needs.
That's what I'm trying to do.
It's really hard to prevent you moving into a property and those are the unforeseen things that you have. And sometimes it is, you run into that and it is what it is.
Yeah.
But if it's your property, you need to demand that it's done right. And having a little bit of education in it. And if the restoration company When it comes to your franchises, when it comes to your bigger companies, they're not going to take the time to do that.
Yeah.
Because they got 5 other jobs to get to.
Right.
So they're not taking that time. They're not going to, it becomes the assembly line.
Yeah.
You know, get it in, get it out, get it in, get it out. They won't even remember that homeowner in 3 days. They'll be like, what claim was that? Yeah, what's the claim number?
And it takes time to implement the IICRC standards the right way to get the job done right. And it's built, if you're going to do that much work, you're going to have to cut corners on certain things. Your containments are going to be not as good, unless, it's hard to be a company that's really got all their P's and Q's, on every single one like that.
It is. It's definitely hard. And it comes down to volume. You know, your insurance companies with the preferred vendors, they give them the volume, and that's how they keep them happy.
Yep.
You know, hey, it's a $10,000 claim, but we're only going to pay you $6,000. But don't worry, I got 5 more coming to you.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so they're not gonna go, oh no, you know what? This is a category 3. We need to do it as a category 3. They go, oh no. We're not doing category 3. You're just gonna cut and dry. That's it. No category. You leave the carpet, pull the pad, leave the carpet.
These are the conversations homeowners don't know are happening behind closed doors.
Oh,
and there's this closed door, and there's this closed door, and there's Steve on this closed door conversation with an insurance company in restoration, and there's this closed door conversation with a different restoration company and insurance, and those conversations are radically different. The way you're handling that is radically different than, okay, thank you, I'll take your money, hand that feeds me, and on to the next one, and I'll take the bait every time. And homeowners unfortunately get the short end of the stick.
And that happens because they're in a panic.
Yeah.
They're in a panic, and they're like, and that's what the insurance company does. They get somebody out to you as quickly as possible. And that dude who comes out there, who's the sales rep, I'm not a sales rep.
Right.
I'm the guy. You know, when I show up, I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Right.
I'm telling you, we need to do this, this, and this. The sales guy who comes out is like, oh yeah, we can do this. He's making it sound like it's all peaches and cream and everything's going to be great. And then all of a sudden your house starts getting ripped apart, and you got 10 dudes in there that aren't speaking to you, may not even speak English, and you're going, what is happening? And now you're calling. Wow. Hey, why is this happening?
I've seen it.
And they're going, you talk to the project manager, talk to this, talk to that. And nobody's ever getting on the phone with you.
That's real.
You're calling the 1-800 number and nobody answers it.
Wow. Can homeowners, I'm trying to think of ways around, for the homeowners to be empowered, ways around some of this stuff and the mines in the minefield. Can they say, if you're going to send your adjuster out, I want this type of adjuster? Like, there's no way to say, I can't, I'm not going to accept someone who's, worked for you for this amount of time, your newest guy, or nothing.
No. Like the one that I was on the phone with this morning, she's going to light them up Monday morning, but it's a phone call.
Yeah.
It's a phone call, and that person's going to go, okay, I'm sorry, ma'am. And then when they hang up that phone, they're going to be like, Shh.
Yeah, just trying to appease them. Yep. Okay, final things, documentation. Okay, real quick, let's talk about the documentation process. How important is it for these situations that start to get messy? The call recordings, the email,
I document everything.
And
all
you
phone
recommend
calls.
Homeowners do the same?
I recommend every single thing. If you're going to have a phone call with an adjuster or with anybody in the insurance company, tell them, I'm going to record this conversation. You don't need to tell them because we're only one-party state, so you don't need to tell them. Only in a two-party state do you need to tell them that you're going to be recording the call. Now, normally, all the big blockbuster, insurance companies are supposed to have call recording on their call. Mm-hmm. When an insurance company's calling you and not sending an email out, they're being shady.
Yeah, that's important.
Because just like when I said that, Jacqueline called that homeowner. Instead of emailing it, she called her and she didn't record the conversation. So now when the homeowner goes, she threatened me, Jacqueline goes, I never did that.
Yeah, there's no proof.
That's why I recorded my conversation with the adjuster the other day. And I let him know that. So everything that you're saying is going to be recorded. So one, document, record the conversation. Any emails that you can put out there, put it out. If you have a conversation with an adjuster or with an insurance company, immediately follow it up with an email and say, as per our conversation today at such and such time, this is what we spoke about. Can you confirm this, this, and this?
Nice.
Put them on that spot. Put them in the corner and make them be accountable for what they're supposed to do. On our end, that's what we do. We take date and timestamp photos of every single thing.
Wow.
We take date and timestamp photos from the time that we get to the house. The first thing we do before I ever even knock on the door is I take a photo of the property. And then I walk up to the mailbox, I take a photo of the mailbox and a photo of the house number. That is the start of my process. Mm-hmm. And then before I ever touch anything in that house, I take pictures of everything. I take pictures of damage that is seen, damage that isn't potentially seen with my moisture meter and my thermal camera. And I start that documentation. Now, I have claims that have 700 pictures in them. And
I tell people all the time, make sure you get pictures from your restoration company.
I mean, I'll have a $20,000 claim, and that claim will have 200 pictures. It'll have the pictures of the day we arrived,
Progress.
the pictures of the demo, actually, the day we arrive, all the moisture readings, and then the demo as the demo is happening. We don't do demo and then take pictures. Somebody stands there, whether it's me or a project manager or whoever it is, stands there with their phone and a date and timestamp photo and takes pictures of, hey, I just pulled this wall out. We got some microbial growth right there. Picture.
And I love that about you. It's that military side, man. You cover all those bases. You're not being lazy. You're not cutting those corners that are very important, and you know they will come back to bite you. And again, your experience in the military was if you miss that, it could cost a life. That if we could get that mindset into this industry and other ones, it'd be huge. I mean, we just had our HVAC system maintained. I got up there. There's a filthy wet washcloth full of gunk and rust everywhere, and it was shoved into a place to like stop a leak. Mm-hmm. I said, this was your maintenance? Like, we have the most amazing photos capabilities with the tech we have. Anytime a professional's in your house, get the before, the after, the progress photos, get documentation from them. Don't say you got something maintained and I don't know. Or these duct cleaning companies who use the online before and after pictures that's what your ducts were. That's not my duct. I've had that happen too. It's like, this is filthy. They did not clean a thing. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot, that you can, as homeowners, you got to just be on top of and there's no reason why.
Maintenance guys and handyman are the worst.
Yeah, of course.
I wish that roofers, same thing. I love roofers. We work with a lot of roofers, and the ones that I work with, they send me the mitigation. Because when they get it, they're like, this is not what I do.
Right.
But you'll have a lot that'll be like, oh no, I'll throw my hat in there.
Right.
And they'll go, and an insurance company love them guys because they're like, oh, you don't even know the standard.
Perfect.
So I don't have to. I can write whatever I want, and you're going to take it because you don't even know how to argue it because you don't know what the standard is.
Right.
You don't know that a fan is placed, every 12 linear foot, or every, 50 square foot of affected floor, or every 2 foot above the floor line, or, how to put a dehumidifier and calculate the pints for a dehumidifier in an area. They don't know that.
Right. So with every issue in society, there's many times a puppet master behind that. You follow the money many times, you follow these different things back. You're like, oh, you're the ones behind it. There are very, very good people too, like yourself, mm-hmm. and like attracts like, and when you do good work and you find good people and you build alliances together, some really good things can happen. There are extraordinary roofers and HVAC people that I'm in touch with, and other inspectors and educators and remediation guys like yourself. So there can be a change, and I believe there will be. And I think that the information age that I was telling is many times used improperly, can also be used very, very, very well with all this education and conversations like this. So I guess to wrap it up, like what do you see happening? What do you think needs to change? What do you think can change and have a positive spin? Because there's a lot of great people out here. And what we don't want to do is just come out exposing and now everyone has trust problems with everybody just because of the potentials of things going wrong.
I honestly think that we need to be able to create, there's always going to be the bad apples, no matter what. There's always going to be companies out there that are going to do the bare minimum. But we need to create companies that are willing to work with each other, are willing to bounce off, hey, I had this problem with this adjuster. Has anybody else ever had this problem? How can we combat that? If we don't come together in the restoration industry and advocate for the homeowner, advocate for the industry, and fight back against the injustices that the insurance carriers are doing, we're never going to win. They are a huge animal. They are a monster that is bigger than anybody has ever even thought about. They run the country.
Right.
Insurance companies run the country.
In every sector.
In every sector. So until we have the teeth to be able to bite them back, there's not much we can do. And the only way we're going to be able to get the teeth is educate other restoration companies and come out and, even we don't have any lawyers to be able to help us.
I've been thinking about that.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
When an insurance company says, I'm not going to pay you, and they go get it from the homeowner. And you're right, 100%. Your estimate is right, and they go, well, this is the undisputed amount. We're only going to pay the undisputed amount. Your estimate may be $50,000, but we're only going to give you 20. It's devastating to a company.
Yep.
You may have $20,000 into the job.
Right.
So you're not even going to get anything. So what do? You go out to the homeowner. And now you've just destroyed that relationship with the homeowner. And it got destroyed because of the insurance company. Because they won. Or because you didn't get the insurance, or you didn't get the homeowner on your side. Educating the homeowner, making sure the homeowner is on your side. And whether we come up with, a holding company where, lawyers and restoration companies come together to help combat these insurance companies. I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
But my thought is if we could create a nationwide, not even company but like a holding somewhere where almost like a third party administrator.
Yeah.
Okay. But a trustful one.
An alliance of.
Yeah. One that, a homeowner can go, okay, here's a group of companies that are willing to do what is right.
Nice.
Versus here's these franchises that are going to come in, they're going to, cut it, dry it, and get out. That's it. And they're not going to battle for me. And while I'm sitting here with my house in pieces, and they got paid, and they don't even speak to me. They don't pick up the phone anymore because they got paid on the mitigation side of it.
Right.
And they're not speaking on the phone anymore. So it becomes just very difficult for us, very difficult for the homeowner. So yeah, really, I think if we created some sort of a holding company or, kind of like a Crawford Connect, where they have vetted companies that are, well, I wouldn't say that. Crawford Connect vets companies as a, to work for the insurance company. So we need one for us.
The other side, yeah.
So even if, say, I'm in another state and somebody calls me and says, hey, Steve, I'm having a hard time with my insurance company and I can't get this done, or I don't have a restorer that I trust. Do you have somebody to recommend? And if we had that, where I can go, yeah, actually, this company in your state close to you, this is who you could reach out to, or they're part of our organization.
Yeah.
And in order to be part of our organization, you have to have integrity and morals and, all these pillars that, are going to ensure that the homeowner gets a fair shake.
Yes.
I think that's going to be a huge thing that we can do. I just don't know how we do it. We need to get some bigger players in to be able to do that.
But casting that vision is fantastic. That's where everything starts. And I think it's happening. I mean, there are moms, especially the mama bears of America, are doing a lot of things in the food and pharmaceutical and several different unjust industries. And I'm believing even in this one, I really, really do. I've met with them. These parents, these homeowners are getting more educated. And so that's going to push, the median up, guys like yourself. And yeah, I don't know the how either. It feels like a really, really tall task, but I do think it's very possible. And
a great book to get. I'm actually trying to get a copy of it right now. It's a little bit difficult to get. It's called From Good Hands to Boxing Gloves. The untold of the insurance industry. So basically what it is it's lawyers that come together that put together case studies and so on and so forth of what the insurance companies do to homeowners and they're insured. And basically this lawyer went, I've had enough.
wow.
And he wrote a book about it. And then there's another book that everybody has probably heard of now after the CEO got shot. That book is, I believe that on the cover it says, Deny, Depose, Defend. That is a book that was put out by lawyers talking about the insurance company and the tactics that they use to prevent you from getting what you deserve on your claim.
Wow.
So
I need to shout out Black Diamond Funding. They are out of Florida and they are fantastic. And they're strong and they help. They said they want everyone to win and they want to make sure that insurance companies are held accountable. And they do temporary housing for people, and they really, really advocate for the homeowner, and they will be absolutely ruthless with the insurance companies and their attorneys backing them. So shout them out, and other organizations hopefully like them. But
we need to create one of them here.
Yeah. Oh, and it's going to happen. And
because Dallas is huge when it comes to this type of thing, and the population, and is only getting more populated. And if we don't get a grasp of this now I will say that there has been a massive change since COVID when it comes to the insurance industry, massively. I've witnessed it. So if we don't get a grip of it now, we're not going to be able to change it. And it's going to be hard to change it now.
Yeah.
But if we don't start the fight and really start pushing and get the right people in place, they're going to steamroll over us, over the insurance, the insured, everybody. They're just going to steamroll over everybody.
Well, you're one of the good ones, Steve Gern, Veteran Restoration. Thank
Appreciate
you,
it,
man.
man.
Thank you so much.